Picture this, right? A hospital has just dropped something like $4 million on a state-of-the-art MRI machine.
Oh, yeah, just a massive, massive
All
investment.
right, and you walk into the room, and I mean, it looks like a piece of equipment that belongs on a spaceship.
Total sci-fi vibes.
Exactly. It is an absolute marvel of engineering. It can take a microscopic, pristine slice of a human brain in, fractions of a second. But if you, as a patient, show up at the emergency room at 2 a.m., the reason your life-saving scan is delayed by an hour has absolutely nothing to do with that billion-dollar machine.
No, not at all.
It's because an exhausted nurse is physically running down a dark hallway just trying to find out if the room is empty.
Which is just wild when you think about it.
It really is. So welcome to today's deep dive. Today we are looking at an operational breakthrough that finally fixes the human chaos behind the machines.
Yeah, we are pulling apart the architectural blueprints and the strategy documents for something called the Human-Centric Radiology Excellence Model, or H-CREM 2.0.
H-CREM, got it.
Right. And the creator of this, clinical excellence architect Fatima Hassan Mohammed, she realized this really fundamental truth about modern healthcare. Hospitals globally are investing billions into faster scanners, sharper imaging.
Which sounds great on paper, right?
It does, but all that investment is actually creating more operational noise, severe staff burnout, and these invisible risks to patient safety. The technology is advancing rapidly, but the execution is basically crumbling.
The execution is crumbling because we just keep assuming that a sharper image somehow solves a workflow problem.
Yes, exactly.
And what's so fascinating is that Fatima didn't look at this chaos and try to invent like a better MRI machine. She designed a maestro to conduct the existing instruments.
That's a perfect way to put it, yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive with you today is to explore the origin story and the evolution of H-CREM. We are going to see how a deeply technical architecture using integration pipes in this 11-layer core actually solves the very human problem of burnout.
Yeah, and to really understand the origin story, we kind of have to look at the baseline first.
Right. Where are we starting from?
Exactly. The original vision for the system was born from a desire for a seamlessly operating radiology department, right? A place where workflow intelligence and workforce protection actually harmonize.
Which is the dream.
It is the dream. But right now, the standard radiology department relies on two massive, completely disconnected systems. You have the RIS, the Radiology Information System, which handles scheduling and patient tracking.
Okay, the schedule.
Right. And then you have the PACS, the Picture Archiving and Communication System, which is what stores the massive, high-resolution image files.
So I keep imagining these systems as the world's most perfectly organized, totally impenetrable library.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right, because you have millions of vital books safely stored. But there is absolutely no librarian.
None. Zero.
So at 2 a.m., you have a panicked staff member running into this giant, dark library. They need one specific book right this second to save a trauma patient. But the systems just sit there.
Just staring blankly at them?
Exactly. They are robust, they are secure, but they only store data. They do not conduct action. They don't talk to each other to say, hey, this patient's vitals are dropping, clear the schedule.
Yes, and that lack of a librarian, that is exactly what creates the 2 a.m. gap mentioned in the source documents.
The 2 a.m. gap.
Right, so put yourself in the shoes of that night shift team for a second. During the day shift, if a communication glitch happens, you have, a dozen administrators, charge nurses, coordinators around to just manually fix it.
You can just shout down the hall.
Exactly. Hey, is room 3 ready? But at 2 a.m., the hospital is a ghost town. It might just be you, one radiographer, and a single on-call physician managing the entire hospital's imaging needs.
Yeah, just the three of you.
Yeah. And this is where the concept of lost minutes becomes so deeply dangerous. The documentation points out that in a high-stress environment, seconds lost trying to figure out which patient is next or waiting on hold for an orderly to bring a wheelchair, those seconds don't just disappear.
They compound.
They compound heavily. A 2-minute delay on patient A becomes a 4-minute delay on patient B.
And suddenly the whole department is 2 hours behind.
Exactly. And the human staff is basically forced to act as the connective tissue between these software silos. They are desperately chasing status updates instead of actually treating patients.
When humans are forced to become the software integration layer, you run directly into invisible risk.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the staff is so busy compensating for the fragmented logic. They're so busy making those phone calls and checking three different screens that the operational bottlenecks remain completely undetected.
Totally invisible.
Right, the risk is invisible until an incident actually occurs or like an external audit fails. Resilience in these departments right now is entirely reactive. A tragic mistake happens, and then everyone scrambles to write a new policy.
Yeah, it's exhausting just thinking about working in that kind of environment.
It really is. So how do we get from that reactive, fragmented chaos to the creator's vision of a seamless department? Because this is where we transition into the operational breakthrough. And the sources say it requires a highly structured technical foundation.
It does. And this brings us to what the blueprints call the maestro architecture. The critical concept to grasp here is that H-CREM does not replace the RIS or the PASAC.
Okay, so it's not ripping out the old systems.
No, not at all. It sits directly above the existing tech stack. It's an orchestration layer. It operates on an 11-layer standardized core connected by HL7 and FHIR integration pipes.
Okay, let's pause and actually explain what those pipes are because they are the secret to how this whole system thinks.
Good idea.
For you listening, if you aren't, a healthcare software engineer, FHIR, which is spelled FHIIR, is a modern web standard for exchanging healthcare information.
It's like the translation layer.
Exactly. It is the language that allows different medical apps like your patient portal and a doctor's iPad to actually talk to each other.
Right. It's very fluid and modern.
But HL7, which is older and deeply, deeply embedded in hospital hardware, is like the core grammar of the machines.
The machine code, basically.
Yeah. So when a CT scanner breaks, it sends out a very rigid HL7 message. So H-CREM is basically fluent in both the modern web language and the old school machine grammar.
And that fluency is what powers the three-bucket engine. Capture, intelligence, and action.
Capture, intelligence, action.
Okay. Right, so the capture bucket is the pulse of the department. It is constantly listening to those HL7 and FHIR triggers across every single scanner, every scheduling update, every patient transfer.
It is just constantly taking in the raw, unfiltered chatter of the department.
Exactly. Then that raw chatter flows into the second bucket intelligence, or the brain.
The brain, got it.
This is where the standard 11-layer architecture applies rigorous rules to distinguish between an everyday, normal workflow and a critical crisis signal.
So it filters the noise.
Exactly. And once it isolates a crisis, it pushes to the third bucket action. It triggers structured human execution.
Meaning it tells someone what to do?
Yes. It directs the specific person who needs to act, and it leaves an undeniable audit trail to ensure the loop is actually closed.
The sources map out a 10-level event map that sits inside this 11-layer architecture. Let's look at layer 1 reception. What actually happens in the action bucket when a patient is, say, 15 minutes late for an MRI?
Okay, so in a traditional system, the schedule just sits there looking blank. The machine is idle, burning thousands of dollars an hour, and the line in the ER waiting area just grows.
It's just dead air.
Exactly. But with H-CREM, that late arrival triggers a modality cascade alert.
Modality cascade alert.
Right. The intelligence bucket sees the scheduling gap via the FHIR pipes, checks the waiting room data, and automatically optimizes the flow.
Automatically.
Automatically. It sends a secure message to transport to bring up the next available inpatient, instantly swapping the time slots without a human administrator having to make 4 separate phone calls.
Oh, wow. That is incredible. And then you move to layer 5, the radiologist level.
This one is huge for safety.
Yeah, let's say a scan reveals a critical finding. The radiologist spots a brain bleed. The system triggers a closed loop alert. But how does it actually close the loop? Because it can't just fire off a generic email that might sit in an inbox for an hour while a doctor's in surgery.
Right, exactly. The mechanism is much, much tighter. It pings the referring physician's active mobile device, and the workflow literally will not close until that physician clicks a specific button acknowledging they have seen the critical result.
It forces a digital handshake.
Exactly, a forced digital handshake.
Yeah.
And consider layer 7, the technical layer.
Okay, what happens there?
If a CT scanner suddenly suffers a mechanical failure, it sends that HL7 error grammar we talked about. H-CREM intercepts it, instantly stops the scheduling software from booking new patients in that room, alerts the clinical engineering team, and reroutes the incoming emergency room queue to the backup scanner.
All automatically.
All in a fraction of a second.
Wait a minute. Stop right there. You just said this system is listening to every single HL7 and FHIR trigger. Every patient arrival, every scanner error, every scheduling swap.
Yes, all of it.
Okay, if I am that exhausted night shift radiographer we talked about earlier, my pager is going to be vibrating 300 times an hour.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Right. How on earth is adding a massive, omnipresent listening engine human-centric? Hospitals are already dealing with massive alert fatigue, where nurses just tune out the alarms because there's simply too many of them.
And that right there is the breaking point for almost all new hospital technology.
Right, because people just start ignoring it.
Exactly. If you blast every alert to every person on the floor, they will completely ignore the system by day 2. The brilliance of H-CREM is that it avoids alert fatigue through what the architect calls the configurable layer.
The configurable layer.
You're right. The 11-layer architecture is standard everywhere, but the local clinical leaders turn the dials.
So the local hospital decides when the system is actually allowed to speak.
Yes, they define the specific thresholds. They map out who actually owns the escalations based on their unique hospital culture.
Oh, that makes sense, because a massive level 1 trauma center in a major city operates very differently than a small rural community hospital.
Exactly. The system listens to everything, but it filters the noise through adaptive operating modes.
Let's break down those modes, because this is where I realized the tech is genuinely designed to protect the humans.
It really is.
You have day mode. The hospital is fully staffed. The system's providing full-scale operational intelligence, managing throughput, deploying staff in real time to meet peak daytime demand.
Right, running on all cylinders.
But then sun goes down.
The 2 a.m. gap arrives, and the system shifts into after-hours mode.
After-hours mode.
Right, it enters a state of passive surveillance. The engine is still capturing all the data, the pulse never stops, but it drastically lowers the alert burden. It will only interrupt that minimal night staff for high-priority safety events and critical, life-threatening results.
It functions exactly like the customized Do Not Disturb setting on your smartphone.
That is a perfect comparison.
Right, because when you go to sleep, your phone is still receiving every spam text, every promotional email, every app notification, but you have it configured so that if your spouse calls twice in a row, it rings through.
Exactly.
H-CREM's after-hours mode acts as a digital shield. It blocks out the minor scheduling delays and routine updates, so the 2 people working the night shift can focus entirely on critical care without hearing a pager beep every 4 seconds.
And that digital shield is the core of workforce protection. It aligns perfectly with the system's safety anchor, which is built on JCI, or Joint Commission International standards.
Which is the global benchmark for healthcare accreditation.
Right, because when you are intentionally filtering out alerts, when you're turning down the volume, you must guarantee you aren't accidentally silencing a real safety risk.
Right, you can't miss the important stuff. And the sources specifically mention IPSG-1 and LPSG-2, International Patient Safety Goals. Tell us how those are baked into the logic.
So IPSG-1 is correct identification.
Okay.
Before H-CREM, an overworked orderly at 2 a.m. might grab the wrong patient for a scan because, 2 people share a similar last name.
Which happens all the time.
It does. Now, at every single transfer of care, the system uses those integration pipes to silently verify the patient's ID against the electronic order. If there's a mismatch, the workflow hard stops.
Wow.
Yeah. And then IPSG-2 is effective communication, which powers that digital handshake for critical results we just discussed earlier.
Right, making sure the doctor actually saw the alert.
Exactly. The system constantly scans for near-miss patterns, like a critical finding being routed to a doctor whose shift ended 5 minutes ago.
Oh, man, that's terrifying.
Right. But the system flags those new misses before they become actual clinical incidents.
There is a quote in the source material from Fatima Hassan Mohammed that I think perfectly captures this whole philosophy. She writes, "Radiology doesn't need more tech. It needs a system that makes the existing tech work together."
Yeah, that quote is everything. It challenges the entire core assumption of hospital procurement.
How so?
Well, we are conditioned to think that buying the newest hardware will magically fix our operational problem.
Just throw more money at the scanners.
Right. But if the hardware can't communicate with the people, it just creates more friction.
But that leads to the ultimate practical question, right? If you are a hospital administrator, how do you actually install this?
Carefully. Very carefully.
I mean, you can't just tell a trauma center, hey, we're going to unplug your entire radiology department for a week to install a massive 11-layer Maestro architecture. People would literally die. How do you get this into the building safely?
So you use a highly targeted roadmap called the 5-step breakthrough pilot.
5-step breakthrough pilot.
Right. You do not try to overhaul the whole hospital on day 1. Step 1 is identify. You pick a single massive pain point, for example, stat stroke turnaround time.
Right, because in a stroke protocol, literal millions of brain cells are dying every single minute. Getting that patient from the ambulance doors into the CT scanner instantly is everything.
Exactly. So then step 2 is define. The leadership sets a hard, measurable metric. Let's say reducing the time from the ER door to the CT scan by 20%.
Okay, a clear goal.
Then step 3 is configure. The local staff actually sits down and maps their exact escalation paths into the Maestro.
The local dials we talked about?
Yes. If a stroke code is called, whose phone rings, which specific scanner is cleared, how do the HL7 pipes talk to the transport team?
Got it. And then we reach step 4, deploy. And this is the part I find brilliant.
Oh yeah, it's so smart.
They don't turn it on for the whole hospital. They do a soft launch on just one specific modality, like a single CT scanner, or they only turn it on for the Tuesday night shift. Why is that localized launch so critical?
Because it builds psychological safety for the staff.
Psychological safety.
Right. When they see it operating on just one scanner, they realize it isn't a micromanager tracking their bathroom breaks.
Right. It's not Big Brother.
Exactly. They see it automatically clearing the schedule when a stroke patient arrives, so they don't have to make frantic phone calls. It proves it is a partner. It completely defangs the fear of new technology.
And that trust leads directly to step 5, prove.
Yes, prove.
You take the data from that one scanner, compare it to the metric from step 2, and you have undeniable proof.
Yeah.
You show the administration that the stroke turnaround time dropped and the staff reports feeling less frantic. You prove the operational harmony with hard numbers.
It shifts the entire conversation from, theoretical tech to proven human impact.
We have covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
We started by looking at a hospital that felt like a beautiful, terrifyingly chaotic library. We saw how pouring billions of dollars into faster standalone machines was actually making the 2 a.m. gap worse, creating invisible risks and just profound staff burnout.
But the solution wasn't another piece of hardware. It was deploying a Maestro and 11-layer core, reading the underlying language of the hospital, orchestrating data through FHIR pipes, and basically protecting the human workforce from burnout with adaptive operating modes.
It is a masterclass in treating the human system, not just the hardware.
Absolutely.
And it leaves me with this final thought for you to mull over. We spent this entire deep dive in the hospital, but think about the underlying logic here. If a smart closed-loop architecture can take the unpredictable life-or-death chaos of a 2 a.m. radiology ward and turn it into a synchronized symphony.
Which is no small feat.
Right. Then what other massive burnout-heavy industries are out there struggling with the exact same thing?
Oh, that's a great question.
Think about global supply chains. Think about air traffic control or massive shipping ports. They're all drowning in fragmented data, trying to fix it by buying newer scanners, newer tracking chips, newer vehicles.
Just more hardware.
Just more hardware. Imagine how completely revolutionized those industries could be if they stopped buying the next shiny piece of hardware and instead deployed a Maestro to finally make their existing technology talk to each other. Just like the MRI machines and the stressed